Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A pleasure to have you here with us in beautiful, beautiful Marrakech. So overhearing you speaking in French, Spanish, you're multilingual, you have a diverse cultural background. What does it mean to you to be in a place like Marrakech and, where there's this kind of interplay of cultures through cinema? And what does that, how does that diverse background of yours inform your work?
It's just fate or luck. I mean, I was raised hearing and learning different languages as a child, so then it's easier to learn other languages, and that does help in work, and of course in a place like Marrakech, where if you can understand and communicate in French, it helps a lot. It's the third time I've been to this festival, and it's always a pleasure because the audiences, in any case, that come are it's a mixture of cinephiles and people who are just excited about seeing movies, genuinely excited, and so you end up having very good conversations with people after the screenings, and it's a good atmosphere. I've also worked in this country a few times, on different shoots, whether they be very small shoots, like productions, French, Arabic productions, or in English, British, or American productions, and lots of beautiful places. So I consider myself fortunate to be here again.
And of course, you're having in conversation tomorrow, and we were just mentioning there that you did get a chance to listen into Matt Dillon's.
Oh, yes.
Did he give you any inspiration about what you might want to cover in yours?
I mean, I know him a little bit, so I had a couple hours free, and I thought, oh, well, let's go. And I went with my director, Lisandro Alonso. Went to hear him, and it was fun. There were some very excited fans of his who had some unusual questions. I think they kind of threw him off. It was a lively event. It was very funny. Also, just hearing the perspective of someone else who, like me, has been in the movie business for decades, and someone who, unlike me, started very young. I think his first movie, he said he was 14 years old. I mean, he's a different person, obviously, and a different sort of actor and director, but he's someone who seems to continue to be excited about being in movies. It's not just a job. I think he's sort of consciously tried to steer toward more original, challenging projects rather than just take the money, at moments in his career where he could have, I don't know, just done big movies and made lots of money. I think he's always trying to challenge himself, which I find commendable. And so I was interested to see what he had to say.
On that note, I mean, perhaps you could say the same for yourself. I mean, how many times you must have been asked about playing Aragorn, Lord of the Rings. You could have gone very much sort of Hollywood-leading man, but you seem to continue to push yourself. Indie movies, working with people like Cronenberg, pushing boundaries. How do you see that push and pull of Hollywood, and what drives you as an artist in choosing your roles?
Well, you have to be lucky also. I mean, after being in what turned out to be a great windfall for everyone involved, the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings, because it was so successful, we all had opportunities, and I didn't consciously steer away from or toward other big studio projects or anything. I wasn't looking for a type of movie or a type of director. I just continued to do what I'd done before, The Lord of the Rings, which was to find interesting projects or hope they found me. Stories that I found challenging. I mean, it's personal. What one person likes, what another likes can be quite different. But just things I thought I would learn from, and I've always tried, as long as I could afford to financially, to wait until something came along that I could sort of throw myself into. Because it's always, whether it's a small project or a big project, it's always the same thing. It's a work, if you do it properly, to prepare, to do it, and then promote it afterwards. And some of the smaller projects you have to work a lot harder to promote, just to get people to be aware of them, because you don't have a big studio machinery to promote it. You have to create the interest yourself, or the filmmakers do. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to be lucky too. I mean, things have come my way, fortunately, that either other actors didn't want to do, or they thought of me first for some reason, and that's luck to some degree. But you make your own luck to some degree by being prepared, by being aware, so that when something comes along, you can recognize it. Oh, this is different, or this scares me, but it's not that it scares me because I don't think it's good. I think it's very good. I don't know if I'm up to the challenge, so maybe I should try it. You know, that's kind of my approach, but it's not specific. I don't have a list of genres or directors that I want to work with. It's always the story comes first. And if that's good and they're interested in me, then who's directing? And then, yeah, in that order.
And the deaths don't hurt. I mean, directing, you know, acting. I know the main character is sort of influenced by memories of your mother, working with Vicky Creeps. Tell us a bit about working on that project and perhaps wearing these many hats. You know, what does that give you that's something different from just acting in a role?
Well, the first movie I made was Falling, and then, as you say, the second one, The Dead Don't Hurt, which is just finished. It wasn't such a big transition, really, because as an actor, I mean, I was a photographer and I wrote before even considering trying acting or being in the movie business. So I was always interested in the team effort. How do you take a screenplay and make it into a movie that actually works well? How is that done? And that's obviously a lot of elements: photography, costume design, production design, sound, direction, you know. And so I've always sort of stuck around the set and watched and learned how to direct, I guess, by watching people do it well and do it badly. Sometimes you learn more from the way people don't communicate well or aren't efficient in the way they use their time on a shoot day. So when I went into directing, I guess the big difference was that instead of me sort of nosing around and asking lots of questions, as a director, you're being asked questions by everybody all the time. And I found that the best thing is to be honest. If you don't really have a good answer, don't pretend that you do. Just say, I don't know, let's try to figure it out together. What do you think, you know? Don't be threatened by someone coming up with an idea that you may or may not like. It may be just the thing you need that day, that moment, you know.
And just finally, you know, this collaboration I mentioned earlier with Cronenberg. I mean, he seems to be one of the most bold filmmakers out there. What do you think makes him stand out as a director, and how might you collaborate again in future?
For many reasons, he's unique, but one of the things I most respect about him, apart from the fact that he's polite and kind to his crew and his cast and very efficient as a director, is that he really seems to make movies to please himself, first and foremost. He makes things he wants to make, the way he wants to make them, to please himself. And then if the audience likes it, that's great. I think in art, generally, that's a good approach. You know, if you're calculating, we see this in movies sometimes, especially big, expensive productions, where they're trying to, because they have to get their money back, I guess, they're trying to cover the waterfront, you know, all demographics, all tastes. And then you end up making something that's neither one thing nor another, that's sort of watered down in some cases, with flashes of maybe technical brilliance or something. Or they won't understand this, let's put some voiceover in, or let's explain the ending, let's, you know, that kind of approach. He just tells the story exactly the way he'd want to see it, as if he was the only audience member. That's what it seems like to me. He doesn't calculate, will they like this, he doesn't care about that. He cares about his taste, and I think that's a good approach. It doesn't mean you're rude, it just means I'm an artist, and that's what I do.
We were joking earlier about, have you ever been asked to recreate that walking through the doors Aragorn moment? It feels like one of the most replayed scenes in cinema history.
Oh, yeah? No, nobody's asked me to do that.
Do you have fond memories, though? I mean,
Yeah.
and just
That
playing a
shoot?
role like that, you know, it's the bedrock from which you can then explore so many other creative possibilities.
Well, it was like film school for everybody, if you wanted it to be. I mean, it was a long, long time that we were down there in New Zealand, and watching Peter Jackson and his team come up with new ways of solving problems, you know, which is what movie making is about. Obstacles, how do you get around them? How do you shoot something that doesn't seem possible to be shot? Or what's the technology available at the time? It was great to watch, and because there wasn't such a big film industry in New Zealand at the time when we started, as there is now, in large part due to his success with that trilogy, a lot of the crew was learning as it went along. You know, they became quite proficient by the end of the shoot, but in the beginning it was like, all hands on deck, but what do we do, you know? And it was great to watch. It was like being in a film school and also being paid to be there, which was nice. Yeah, it was a good experience. And when you have a role that you can explore over a long period in a movie, which is unusual, it's akin to, let's say, being in a play that travels and you play it night after night after night, and you can keep evolving and getting used to perfecting the character and your relationship to the other actors, for example. Or I guess being in a TV series where you get to explore a character for a long time. That's what we got to do on The Lord of the Rings. So I got very familiar with the body language, the way of speaking, relating to others. A lot of things became second nature for me and I suppose the other actors. So it was a great, unique, I don't know if it'll be repeated, opportunity, that it would take that long and be such an involved process.
And are you relieved that you and Mads haven't overlapped? Because I have heard that sometimes people confuse you guys on the red carpet. Is that true?
We haven't. I don't know why we haven't. We came close one time, and when I do see him once in a while, it's always fun. He has a great sense of humor, and I'd love to work with him. Maybe we're still kicking, we're still going, so maybe it'll happen.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing all that with me. I really enjoy your conversation here in Marrakech. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.